Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. I am here with Chris Bacon from Boredom, Missoula. Really excited to be chatting with him a little bit about their story and kind of what's been going on with them and the industry. So, Chris, thanks so much for joining me. And yeah, really excited to be chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be able to have a chance to tell a little bit of our history and our experience, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. Kind of to start things off, Chris, would love to understand your background. Like, how did you get started in the skate industry? Did you start when you were young, a little bit later? What tell us
Yeah.
kind of how that all initiated?
So yeah, I did start when I was pretty young. I grew up in Western Washington and just moved around a whole bunch when I was a kid. And when I was a sophomore in high school, we moved out here to Missoula. And out in Washington, all the places I'd lived before that, you couldn't really skate anywhere without getting, kicked out or the cops called or board confiscated. And so one of the first things I noticed here in Missoula was like you could skate down the street and no one, you know, as long as you weren't on a business owner's property, right in front of their door or whatever, most people wouldn't kick you out and the cops didn't care. So I, by that way, I was able to skate around Missoula and I made it to Boredom, Missoula. And it was just like the coolest shop I'd ever been to, mostly because the people inside were really cool. And a lot of the shops that I'd, been to were just, they didn't really make me feel that welcome. And it was just, it was the 80s and stuff. And it was just kind of a different environment. But I never understood that because growing up, mostly skating on Camano Island was really where I started putting things together. You'd read magazines and watch videos and you felt like kind of akin to, part of this like group and stuff. And you're like, oh, there's not that many of us. We're all going to be buddies. And, it kind of didn't feel that way to the shops in Washington. So anyway, I moved back and forth a little bit more. And then I loved it out here in Missoula so much that I moved out here on my own to complete my senior year of high school. And that was in 93, that summer. And that's when I met Zach Spanigal, who started this shop with his friend Dan Gavir. And at that time, Dan had already left and Zach was working alone and he asked me to help him out. And so, yeah, before I started my senior year of high school while living on my own, one of my 4 jobs was Boredom, Missoula. And I worked here for a couple years, just for credit, basically, and boards and stuff. He didn't really have a lot of money. And I just wanted to learn and help. And I rented rollerblades a lot back in the day, got a lot of lunch, stuff like that. So yeah, I started in high school and now I own the store. So
When did that happen? That transition from being the employee to the owner, was that fairly recently, or when did you kind of take that leap or that risk to decide, okay, I want to actually own the store, I want to lead it? When did that kind of start off?
yeah, so it kind of happened in like a 2-phase sort of scenario. In 2004, a guy named Jake Barrow bought our shop, and his dad, Greg Barrow, started Edge of the World over in North Carolina and was one of the really, really early snowboard shops on the East Coast. And so Jake was working at a different store in Missoula, and he ended up buying Board of Missoula from the final owner at that time. And that was 2004. I worked with Jake together up until about, let's see, I think it was 2000, probably 2013. I bought half of our inventory here at Board of Missoula, which was actually called Edge of the World at that time. So I bought all the skateboard, clothing, shoe, basically the whole skate side of things. And then Jake retained all of the snowboard sort of specific side of things. And we operated it as 2 businesses and kind of flipped utilities responsibilities every 6 months. So anyway, we did that for a few years. And then Jake approached me and said he did just want to go ahead and leave and, would see if I could, wanted to buy the rest of the shop and like take it over. And I said yes. And so that was in what year is it now? 2025. That was in 2017. So yeah, so I'm 8 years into being like a full owner. But I've been working here for 32 years. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So let me maybe ask you this, because kind of owning your own business is a risk, and it's something that's not everybody is built for. Like, was it your experience with the shop and kind of the local community, or what kind of made you kind of think to yourself, okay, this is why I want to do this, why I want to just own the whole store and really go 100% in? What was kind of your motivation behind that?
Um, One of my biggest motivations was I wanted to bring the name Board of Missoula back, since we were called Edge of the World. And I guess the motivation behind that was that I felt like that Board of Missoula. Let me rephrase that. I feel like Board of Missoula is larger than just like the door, right? It's and it's larger than me and any of our employees or anybody that's even worked here in the past. It's kind of an entity. It's kind of become like a community hub. It's just something that I feel is really important to have in a community. And yeah, I think that I couldn't imagine Missoula without Port of Missoula for me. And so that was a huge, motivation for saying yes to that. Also the fact that, I had put in so much time and I felt like I truly love this place so much. And who else would do it? Um, and then, I grew up in a flower shop when I was a kid. My mom had a flower shop for a long time when we were young. Uh, Kind of before we started our big moving spree, we had lost the shop. So there's a bit of that in there for me that I feel like helps to be like an accomplishment, for my mom and stuff too, and for our my history and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons when you break it down. But to it's still weird for me to say that I own Port Missoula because it's always has been such a we thing to me, that was, I mean, it's even over the last few years, I've been able to kind of like really be like, yes, it's my shop, but um, it took me a while to even say that because I feel like it's just been a community effort, and but I think my post is captain, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'll admit I have not talked to a retailer who went from an experience being in a flower shop and a family business in that space to then going to skate and snow sports. Um, was the flower shop situation, was that just something that you and your family had owned before and that your mom was involved in, and then you guys kind of moved to where you're at now, or what was that story, if you can expand on that at all?
Yeah, so my mom she just had a love for flowers and all things like that. So that was a dream of hers to be able to open a flower shop. So yeah, it was called the European Flower Market, and it was in first started in Woodinville, Washington, and we lived in the house. It was a little kind of old house, old farmhouse, with like 2 stories and like a weird basement. And then it was next to like, strip mall, early strip mall stuff in the early 80s. And so it was kind of her dream to do this. And so, yeah, we lived there. And so I would help make arrangements and help do things when I wasn't going to school. Um, and we were able to expand that shop into like that strip mall eventually, which was pretty cool, and move into a different little cottage right behind it. But yeah, it was just a dream of hers. I mean, she had her piano in there. She was a pianist and really, really great. And so it was like really pretty, kind of old, kind of European, like kind of patine or whatever, white with the cool like markings and stuff. And yeah, I would make flower arrangements for people and they would buy them and I would interact with customers. And so I kind of grew up in that retail environment, and it wasn't like a strict job. It was just kind of like if I wanted to,
Mm.
but I wanted to be in there a lot, it was fun, play music for the customers and stuff. And but yeah, unfortunately, one of my mom's husbands sort of like did some shady stuff, and the business kind of failed. And that's really what started a really big moving streak for us.
Mm.
Um, I went to 3 schools in 5th grade, 4 schools in 6th grade. Just so many different houses and trailers and things in between, back and forth and stuff like that. And so yeah,
Wow.
so it was a lot of learning, a lot of adapting growing up. And when I found skateboarding, it was just like, oh my, it just was a game changer. It was just finally something that I could enjoy on my own with others. It's creative, it's athletic, it's also, there's like the travel aspect, the out on the road, just the roaming around, learning your own habitat,
Mhm.
and new habitat, and yeah, the camaraderie, and then the camaraderie and the community and like the give back aspect sort of started coming along. I'd say fairly early, probably when I started to realize like, hey, why are these people nice and these people, what's going on here? Like, well, who do I want to hang out with? Like, how do we do this? Um, and so, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I was just kind of rambling there, but um,
No, that's a really great story, Chris. I really appreciate you sharing that. It almost kind of feels like, if I'm connecting the dots right, part of that motivation to open your store also is kind of maybe continuing that legacy from your mom of owning a retail store now being something that you really enjoy, with skate. That's a really awesome kind of, I would almost say, correct me if I'm wrong, and assuming it's almost a tribute,
yeah,
uh, to what your mom started and loved and what you grew up in. Now you kind of being a successful business owner in the retail space and serving customers the same way you did in the flower shop. So that's a really cool story, Chris. I really appreciate you sharing that.
thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I don't think I've ever really known and felt I like put words to it, I guess.
Yeah.
This so I really appreciate that. And I miss my mom dearly, so I'm trying to not choke up here. But thank you for seeing that. That makes me feel really, really good.
Well, like I said, we want to spotlight, retailers in the TrackFly community and have them share their stories and what they're comfortable with. And I feel like this is an awesome story that is great to be told. Wanting to kind of get into, a little bit from your lessons. You talked about how, like, growing up in the retail space and even starting at Born Missoula, there was a lot of lessons learned, a lot of adaptation. Could you talk to a little bit about, when you kind of either started in Born Missoula or even, in the first couple of years of being an owner, what would you say are some of, like, the biggest lessons that either potentially new skate shop owners, are there coming into the industry, or even legacy ones that, might have something that they want to learn from you? What would you say are maybe just a couple, like, the biggest lessons that you wish you would have known as a business owner in this space?
Biggest lessons. I guess one of them for me personally would be getting to know yourself and know how you operate best, and trying to hire a team around that.
Mm.
Um, maybe as opposed to many other reasons to hire somebody, I guess. Um,
Opposed to, like, a friend or family member or
yeah, a friend, a family member, somebody who's got a super awesome resume, somebody who's just a ripper, so, like, uh, yeah, I feel like hiring has just been like constantly a challenge. And obviously even though I haven't owned this place for 33 years or whatever, I've seen, and been a part of so many different eras of this business and retail in general that, you know, I feel like now I've like finally understood that like I need to be able to operate at a certain point, and to do that I need like certain individuals around me, right? I need to have like a really solid crew, and that can be achieved maybe with less people, but if they're the right people. So yeah, just a lesson I learned, I guess, was like, don't try to like change too many people. you
Right.
know like there's definitely like help too many people, which sounds terrible. Like I hate putting it into words like that, right? Because I mean, again, back to the tribute aspect, like, flowers, like they help people, right? Like skateboards help people. Like this is a toy store when it comes down to it. So in order for me to help people, I need to like kind of like be in this great space, or as best space as I can be in, right? And I can't always be putting all my nurturing efforts into my team.
Mhm.
They need to sort of like kind of come a little bit built in with like some of these characteristics that are going to help us all like communicate and thrive and like do what we need to do to kind of help our flowers grow here at the shop. Um, Instead of just planting a ton of seeds and like hoping they grow and like giving them all a bunch of juice and hopefully they get it. And so that's definitely been like a constant learning lesson, I would say. But really I felt like learning a lot more about myself through the years has helped me learn how to maybe define what I'm looking for a little bit better in like a Board of Missoula employee.
Could you expand on that a little bit in terms of like from what you've learned, both from mistakes and successes? And I totally get where you're coming from. Like you want to be able to help people. That's what the skate community is all about,
Right.
helping people be involved and having fun and enjoying the sport. But at the same time, you've got a business you've got to run, and not every employee, say, could be a project, if you want to call it that.
Mhm.
And so, thinking about from those lessons you've learned, when you're looking for a new employee, whether it be to replace somebody who's left because they're off to college or something else, or just you're looking to expand, from those lessons you've learned, what are some, say, characteristics that you've identified? Like, okay, this is what I'm looking for now that I know can help my business and help the way you function and the way you operate, Chris.
I think the communication skills obviously largely are huge, right? Being like kind of being able to be personable, but also being able to be like grounded enough, like real enough that we can truly communicate here. Uh, because I feel so passionately about Board of Missoula and what it represents in our skateboard community. Um, there's a lot of like emotions on the sleeve.
Mhm.
Like I wear a lot of my emotions on my sleeve. So I feel it's important to be as open as possible and honest, right? And so again, communication and being able to, have like that light communication that we don't want to have to go super deep with every customer, of course, but we want to be able to not have to bring too much baggage to work that we feel like we can't talk about, if that's gonna like help us get through our day, right? So like
Mhm.
I'm a big communicator, and I feel like that's like just so important, such a number one skill that's needed, and that that has to carry to the customer, has to carry to the other employees. um and then I guess, again, adaptability here at the shop is huge. I mean, it's hard to be a Board of Missoula employee, honestly. I require so much of these people to be able to like try to fill like my shoes, when I'm not here. When I am here, there's just a lot to know, and to really give people that Board of Missoula experience that I think has helped us succeed over the years and maintain, a snowboard, skateboard shop for 36 years,
Mhm.
Northwest in Montana. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. So it's customer service. So getting back to your question, I feel like aside from communication, I think like a personal attachment to what we do is
Mhm.
really important. And I think that's a difficult thing to really like request of someone. It's almost like that's kind of where you almost go back to that growing thing a little bit. It almost has to like happen, or they have to find it or like have it, right? And it comes with time, but I feel like that's truly what's made our shop stick around, as we've had so many people involved over the years that have had such an admiration for what we do and a joy to be a part of the team, and they love saying that they worked here, and that sort of love that they found, pretty much everybody that still sings that tune, like they were all amazing employees. They all had their like they found where they fit in Board of Missoula to help make it better, you
Mhm.
know um, which is
Awesome.
what I thought I was doing for so long. Well, I was doing. I mean, I'm here. So,
Right.
that's what I was trying to do. That was my approach, was like, how can I make it better? Like, I know I'm done with my tasks. I emptied the trash, and in the early days, I rented the rollerblades. I cleaned the things up, and took out the cardboard. It's like, but there's still time. That What about this? It's kind of that mentality, that proactive, like
Mm.
passion into what we do.
Gotcha, gotcha. So it's finding the right people who look at the job as more than just a job that they get paid for, but like somebody who's passionate about, the business and really looking for ways for improvement. Even like if they've got ideas like, hey, like you said, I've got time. What if I could do this, or what if I could do that? Let me maybe ask you a little bit about that. Is that something else that like you guys do with employees, is really kind of encourage them to come with ideas, or
Yeah.
what's kind of that dynamic like in terms of um employees either sharing ideas, or that, I guess, the collaborative side of things with employees to make Board Missoula that much better? What's that dynamic like?
It's great. I mean, I feel like it's great. We should probably ask my employees, but I only got two of them right now. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm constantly asking them what they think about choices that maybe in the past I wouldn't have asked all the employees.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm a lot more collaborative over the years, trying to just, it's like part of it is like a transparency thing, and also again, back to like kind of how many hats we wear and stuff. It's like, hey, they need to know what's coming in. They need to know what our plans are, what my plans are. So yeah, I feel like in general though, like if they have ideas, uh they're coming to me, both coming to me with ideas of ways to improve things. um right now we have some like semi-delineated like tasks, just because we have so much inventory coming in, that we kind of need to make sure that we're just hustling through all this product, right? So we get it on the floor because the invoices are coming in as well, and we know how that chain works. So we kind of have like a lot of heads down computer guy moments, and then we've got on the floor like guy moments, right? So on the floor guy moments are like, oh, hey, how can we adapt the shop better to facilitate what we have coming in? Tyler's really great at helping rearrange things. come up with new storage and shelving ideas and flow ideas. I think since he started working here, our flow has been a lot better, and that's like all been him and me trusting him, you know. Um, and then Edric has been super helpful in the input, the data input entry things like I was speaking of before, and working with me on specifically the Shopify end and trying to stay as caught up on that as possible. And then, you know, I do most of the ordering, but I'm like, hey guys, what do you think of this? Hey, I got this coming in. Tell me if you think this is dumb, you know, like, you know, so I feel like we're constantly sharing. Our problem is that we just don't have enough arms or time, which probably most people might think as well in their own capacity, right? But yeah, it's I feel really lucky to have these two guys right now because I feel like they really get it, like I was saying. Um, and you know, if the economy was maybe in a different place right now, I could feel more confident trying to get another person, you know, but also back to some of our earlier discussions, I haven't really seen that person come in, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah,
So
no, totally get it. You've honestly, Chris, this is really awesome. What you shared, kind of how you as a manager empower your employees to feel like they can share ideas. You know, I'm sure you've experienced this just with maybe any job that you maybe had in the past. There's I found that there's two types of managers. There's the kind that like to micromanage and like to see everything and really not give any sort of leash, you could say, to
mhm,
their employees. And they almost feel like, oh, just do exactly what I say and don't do anything else.
right.
And then there's the kind that are a bit more empowering, want to collaborate, and want to make sure that the employees feel like they've got some sort of fulfillment in their work. And from what
Yeah.
you've shared, it seems like you are very much the latter.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's so much opportunity for growth here. I mean, l- look at me, you know, like I I graduated high school living on my own. I had four jobs and this was one of them. And it's because I love skateboarding and snowboarding and the people that are surrounding it. And now I own this store. You know, I it's because I loved it, you know. And I Zach really gave me that, you know, early in the day, you know. He's like, "Yeah, man, if you've got some ideas, let me know." Didn't mean he would think they were all great, you know, and we wouldn't utilize them all or whatever, but it was a chance, you know, and it wasn't an experience I had had in other jobs, right? Other jobs, it's like they're basically just giving you a worksheet, just fill out the worksheet, right? Board of Missoula, it's like, here's this empty piece of paper and it just says Board of Missoula on it. And you just fill out the rest, right? So, yeah, I feel like there's so much growth potential here. So many of our employees over the years have went on to become major industry figureheads, as well as reps and like consistent supporters of the skateboard and snowboard industry over all the years. Um, there's, you know, I feel so fortunate to get to work with people that I worked with 30 years ago, like here. They get to come here for a clinic and we're just like, oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah, yeah, you know. So yeah, just that camaraderie, you know, like you should have that like at your workplace. I can't imagine not having it. And you know, so I feel so fortunate that I've been able to be here and hopefully help to, you know, complete that environment from year to year. You know, it's things change. I'm not perfect. I've made so many mistakes and and whatever, but I'm still learning and I feel like I have learned some things. So, you know, it's just it should be a constant growth. I mean, you want the plants to live forever.
Always tying it back to to the flower shop and the
Yeah.
legacy. I
Yeah, I
love.
have to tell you my mom's motto at some point too, whenever.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, Chris, one you kind of talked a lot about that collaboration with employees, and to kind of finish things up, would love to understand. And you've even kind of talked a little bit about some of with the lessons you've learned. Would love to understand a little bit more about lessons that you perhaps learned around the collaboration with some of your brand reps. You've mentioned that even some that worked in the store went on to be reps, or there are some you're still working with. What would you say are some of the key takeaways or lessons you've learned when it comes to working with brands? And what should skate shops maybe try differently that you do that's different when it comes to collaborating with them? Because I mean, you know this. There's always that kind of there's always a little bit of a rift, it feels like, when it comes to relationships with brands and retailers, depending on who the brand is. But with you and what you've been able to do to grow Board Missoula to where it is, with your vast experience, what would you say are some key things that you think skate shops should understand when it comes to working with reps or working with brands to collaborate to make sure that you can be successful?
I would say when working with reps, hopefully you can have a relationship with your rep where you really feel like they're your friend and they're on your team. If I feel like if you are having that rift, or if like those things don't feel that great, then you should ask yourself, like, do I want to give my money to that person, like, to this relationship? Um, I feel like I've had the most success with the reps that have stuck with me the longest, maybe moreover than the brands. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Uh, because those relationships that we were able to establish early on as down to earth, kind of same thing I was asking for in an employee, a potential employee, right? It's just like a real person that we can actually communicate with. And it's not just bottom line. And it's not just sales, it's just not just sales jargon and stuff like that. Um, we've experienced success with brands through great relationships with our reps because we were able to explore all sides of everything. We were able to try new promotional ways to get people excited. Um, you know, having like maybe a little bit more of an open door conversation with your rep about whatever can lead to some really fun ideas for marketing and tie-ins and things like that. Um, am I kind of getting at what you're talking about? I guess there's a couple angles of it too that I'm thinking of as well. Um, like our reps that like our reps that have like done a good job also of like connecting us with brands for like specific collabs and like maybe a little bit bigger marketing pushes and stuff like that. um that's been largely because they feel like we had a good relationship, and they want to be in this shop because they know what we're putting out to the public is, we're speaking the same language, we're spreading the good word or whatever, like we're they trust us, right? So they trust that their brand marketing that they'd hope that we'd be saying, that we're saying something as close to that as possible, but the intent is the same, right? Is true,
Mm,
passionate, right? So it's not just like reiterating a clinic and like with just kind of empty words, right?
mhm,
So yeah, I feel like those, again, I mean, I feel like I'm just like a broken record a little bit, but people that have supported us, I want to support, you know. I guess one other sort of different angle is I try to take the brand as a whole when I'm in connection with them as well, like in-house and accounting. Like um, I really like to make sure that our accounting people know that they're people too, and like actually reach out if we're going to be late, or just like have regular communications with them, like because I feel like that's such a huge part of our industry, obviously, as well. And I've had so many conversations over the years where they're like, thank you so much for reaching out. Nobody ever tells us they're going to be late. They just ghost us and we have to bug them all the time. And I'm like, oh, well, of course, like I want to pay you. I don't want to look at this bill. And I get it. You need your money too, just the same way I do. So I have, this is how it works. So yeah, I mean, giving a giving an accounting person the time of day at a brand goes a long way.
That's awesome. No, that's very interesting for you to share. Like, so you really do kind of go above and beyond perhaps the average in terms of trying to really collaborate with the brands and the reps, really just to help make sure there's a good relationship.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
and I
trade promo with them. Like I'll send reps boxes of stuff, because I'm like, thank you. Like you guys, I want you to be stoked on our shop, obviously, but I also want to say thank you for sending us that box. That's the old school skate community way. So back in the day, even like when fax machines were going on and stuff, it was like, it was such more of a conversational, oh yeah, man, all right, I got you. Man, it's so good to talk to you, and like maybe I'll meet you someday, but I don't know. But this is rad. I'll send you a photocopied picture of myself so you know. But yeah, I feel like that came from that old school way of like, man, the reps showing up, they're gonna hook us up. We gotta give them some of our stuff too. It's like Christmas on Christmas.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Chris, I know I've taken up quite a bit of your time, but I do appreciate it. Is there any kind of final thoughts that you like to share with the skate community as far as either, you know, about your store or even just kind of like some final lessons of like, hey, this is what our skate industry needs based off of your experience? Any kind of final thoughts on something you'd like to share like that?
Well, I know for us, reinforcing and reinvesting in your local community and local communities, like even outside your local communities, uh, with skate parks has been phenomenal for us. I mean, it's such a huge part of why we are still here. We started the MSA 25 years ago, and our park next year will hit 20 years old. And now we're building our 51st skate park in the state. And we've been a part of like 80% of those. So I would say, anything you can do to invest in anything actually hard skate related, like a DIY, a park, an indoor park, a ramp, whatever, any sort of thing like that that you can sort of, work to better in your community. If there's already one there, maybe you start holding an annual event. You might do something like that already, but maybe you consider going to that park that's like, in that next town over and seeing if they want to do an event, reaching out to places that are, closer to you to start, I think is a great way to help broaden your entire skate community, which really is extra valuable right now. I think that through our customer base that's been coming in over the last few years, we've really noticed how much people care, like how much people want to support a good shop, support a local shop, visit a local shop to see what it's like. And there's such a community out there, and it's kind of like it's that two question rule. It's like what I like to say. It's like, hey, how's it going? And you're like, oh, all right, cool, yeah. And when a customer comes in the door, you're like, let him walk around a little bit, and then if you're like, so what are you doing? You're like, are you on a road trip? What are you here for? Some sort of second question. A lot of times that second question will lead to the 7 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon, that idea or whatever, right? So it's insane how connected we really are. So when you open your doors up for that second question, or you go into that second community away from yours, um, you can really just broaden your reach as a shop and feel, I don't know, for me, it just feels like, man, we're doing it. We're doing more, you know, we're helping to keep people juiced on skateboarding because we're juiced on it. And we want to bring that juice, you know, to another town, set up our lemonade stand and like, you know, have some fun, you know? So yeah.
Well, hey, Chris, thank you so much for your time. This is an absolute pleasure talking with you, hearing your story, seeing kind of where you started, the legacy that you have built, and continue to grow. I think a lot of what you've said are some really great lessons that other skate shops and snowboard shops can take, and really love just what you're doing.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time, and yeah, we look forward to hearing more about the growth of Chris Bacon and Board of Missoula as the time continues.
All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate it, Mark.
Thank you, Chris. Have a good one.
You too.